What is up, guys? Man, could we be having a better week? Sorry, gotta turn that off. Hope everyone's doing well out there, and I think everyone is going to be doing well out there because, man, it has been a good week for crypto and for Algorand, XRP, and Hedera, particularly. Just shared something in this morning. They're like the top, just this morning of on the week. They are like in all three are in the top five, I believe, for gains. So it's been a heck of a week, just having a lot of fun watching some of these coins go up. Now I will say, and I follow Algorand, Hedera, and XRP pretty closely, but Algorand probably more than the other ones, and just because I've been doing it for longer. A couple weeks ago, there were some pretty big holders, very active people in the Algorand community that said they were quitting everything, that they were selling everything, they were getting out of it, and they were just going to be done. And I don't know, I don't know if they really did it. You never know with these things. Sometimes people just say stuff because they get frustrated, or I don't know if they did do that. I don't know if they what they did instead. Did they just hold that money in cash? I hope not for their sake. I hope they put it in something else that grew. But if you sold 2 weeks ago, you really got screwed. And I will say, and we'll probably get into this more because I'm going to go through my portfolio and show you guys a little bit how that's going. But I will say that generally speaking, when I make bull run predictions and I choose some coins, I generally stick with them because you just never know. If we saw from 2021, different coins popped off at different times, and you could get lucky and hit all the ones that pop off at the right time, or you could do it the opposite way and get out of things right before they pump. You just never know. I think it's generally best to make your bets and stick with them and see what pumps and what doesn't. Overall, you'll probably do fine. Because everything's pumping, and I really can't wait to get to the charts. GM Everyday Algonaut, good to see you here. And watch a glitches. LFG says who's crypto. Welcome to the show, everyone, and thanks for watching. We're gonna have a fun time. This is when it's fun to do stuff in crypto. When everything's down, it's not that fun. But those are the opportunities. The opportunities came when everything looked like, oh god, this again. And I think there's some there's been a lot of talk about the lengthening cycles, and I think we're seeing some evidence of that. We also have a lot of very bullish news around crypto, but we had bullish news before, and it really didn't move the needle. I think it's just time. It's just the time of the cycle, and I think it's later than usual. You have a lot of institutional stuff. We'll kind of get into a little bit of that. We kind of got into it this week on the channel, but there's also, there's ETPs coming for Algorand and HBAR, or I shouldn't even say coming. They're here. They're not available in the US. They're in the Swiss and Sweden markets from the same company called Valor. So that's awesome. But, we've had good news for a long time, right? So I think we're in an age where the news, at least in terms of the crypto markets, usually don't move the needle. However, it's not just crypto. We're also seeing really good stuff going on in the stock market. Stock market has been hitting all-time highs. This was supposed to be a bad year. The terrorists were supposed to kill everything. They didn't. Surprise to me, to be honest. I'll be 100% honest. I thought we'd see more downfall in the market as well from the tariffs. Everyone said it was, it was going to cause inflation. Inflation has gone the opposite way. And, why? I don't know either, to be honest. If I'm being 100% honest, I don't fully understand that either. But it is what it is. So let's see, where are we at? Yeah, maybe we should just look at, I don't know if we're gonna have a super long one because there hasn't been a ton of news to find because everyone's tweeting about the price, and we're all very happy about that. We're all excited, and that's awesome. I mean, that's great. I like to see it. It's really, these are the fun times. So let me see. Let's pull up the chart, and I will have to zoom out a little bit. So yeah, Bitcoin, so Bitcoin has not been the story. It had been the story about 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago. Now Ethereum actually had crossed 3,600. We got a little bit of a pullback right at the moment, but not really erasing the fact that it's up 20, still up 20% on the week, which is really good. XRP had hit an all-time high over 350. What did it actually get to? Let me see. Because yeah, I actually hit a sell order on XRP. It's the first time I hit a sell order in. Yeah, we got up to 362, 3 thereabouts. Yeah, that's pretty good. So it came back down a little bit. Like I said, I hit that 350 sell order, and that was nice. That's the first time I had a sell order for a long time. I actually took off my sell orders on Bitcoin too, by the way. Bitcoin is now a buy and hold asset for me, and I will I'm not going to do any more selling, I don't think. I'm just going to hold on to it for the long term. Yeah, and Solana back to about 180, but I know a lot of people, this is one of the coins for me, and including a lot of others where, I think I sold off at 220. I think my next sell order is like 300, so I'm a long ways from that. Yeah, Doge looking nice on the week. Stellar was one of the big ones too. I didn't mention Stellar because I don't think I hold any, or I have a little tiny amount probably. That's up 35% on the week. So that one's having it. Another utility coin having a nice day. Yeah, SWI only up 10%. So SWI is one of the ones that was kind of an early market darling. And my average buy on SWI was about $1.50. So this is looking really nice for me. I've already taken some profits on SWI, and we'll get into. I'll show. I usually save that for channel members. Today on the stream, I'm going to show my portfolio briefly. It's going to be a little outdated because I did it last night, but we'll share that a little bit. But like I said, channel members at the level 2 tend to get that one. By the way, big shout out to our sponsors. Before I forget, non-fungible domains. If you want that nice .algo address, makes doing everything in Algorand so much easier. And yeah, it really does. Every time I want to look up my portfolio in LV, or what is it called? LV stats? No, ASA stats. I just do it there, and it's so much easier than having to try to remember all the letters and numbers. It's just super duper easy. And we're brought to you by Marcus Aurelius, a meme coin and Algorand, meme coin and NFT project on the Algorand blockchain, spreading the wisdom of Stoicism. That's really cool. I think it's one of the coolest projects on Algorand, to be honest. I was very happy to be partnered with them. So Chainlink at $18, that's up 15%, but Hedera 33%. This was actually a little bit higher before the pullback, but still very, very good. We saw 28-cent Hedera, still at 27 cents. For me, that is getting close to 7x. But I'm not going to take profits. I might take a little more profit at 35 cents. I did have my target set at 40, but I might move that back a little. By the way, chat's a little quiet. I'd love to hear what your biggest wins of the week are. So let me know in the chat what your big wins in crypto this week, or stocks too, if you did that, whatever. Gold, maybe? I don't know. Just let me know in the chat. Otherwise, Avalanche at 13. Shiba Inu is not. We're not seeing like the memes really popping off, except I think Pengu did really, really well. Otherwise, yeah, Toncoin, Litecoin, Polkadot. They're up a little bit, but not anything too exciting. Uniswap up a bit. Monero sitting pretty flat. That's interesting. Just looking for some outliers. Yeah, you seeing the memes are not doing well. Compared to a lot of the other coins, the memes are like pretty light. And then Ethereum Classic was one of the ones that was sandwiched in between XRP, Algorand, and Hedera, having a pretty good week. Pi, not so much. Pi's like actually down 10%. I've told my Pi story on here, so I probably won't tell it again, but basically I was in on kind of the pre-coin launch days. So I have some Pi. I think there's a bunch of stuff I have to do to actually have it in a wallet somewhere, and I've been too lazy. So I might not even, it might disappear. Ondo doing okay. ICP doing okay-ish. Bonk, one of the few memes that's actually taking off. And then Algorand at above 30 cents had actually hit 32 cents before, which is pretty cool. 32% on the week. Everything, like I said, everything's pulling back a little bit. Not as much as some of the other ones, though, which is kind of interesting. Then we got Mantle. Mantle did pretty good. Arbitrum pretty decent. Polygon up a little. I'm still like way under. Polygon was one of my worst bull market bag predictions. A lot of the ones that I thought would be my smaller cap but higher moving ones are just, I'm way under on them. And I already took some profit because they pumped early and then now they've just been dead. Yeah, Caspa not looking so good. VeChain doing okay. Oh, well, that's a USD coin. Render okay-ish. Say, yeah, most of these, like Trump barely moved. I mean, it is just not it's not meme coin season. Nice to see Cosmos at $5. This one pumped. I remember it pumping at least into the high $20 range. It might have been even in low 30s. Actually, I think it was around 32, 33. We can look. I always do this thing where I'm like, do I remember this? And I'm like, why don't I just look? It's right on the chart. Oh yeah, I got higher than that. I actually got into the 40s. Wow. So it's been sitting very low. Interesting to see. I actually have a pretty decent little bag of Atom, and I've been staking it, getting like 12, 13%. One of the biggest stakings that you can get, as far as I know. And that's just with the validator in the wallet. Really simple. Yeah, see, here's what I was saying. Pudgy Penguin's one of the big movers, 39%, almost 40%. Still, I mean, I think it was in the 50s before the pullback. I'm seeing if there's anything. Well, Pump.Fun really fell. I don't know what that one's gonna do. Some of these, Blur was one of my bad ones too. My thought was they seem to be really going after OpenSea with free trading versus the high fees that OpenSea was charging. I thought they had a really good business model, and so the coin maybe would take off, but it's not been great. I'm still way under on that one. But like I said, memes overall, except for like Pudgy Penguins and Bonk, are pretty, they're not doing well. It's really a utility coin season here. XDC, where's Bobby Jonas? Where is Bobby Jonas, my favorite troll who loves XDC? Long ways to go to catch up to Algorand, my friend, but up 14%, that's not too bad. Nothing near Algorand's numbers, but I like that for you. There's some people that really like XDC, and I'm not actually knocking XDC. I just think it's funny that one of the trolls in my comments was always, he'd always say like XDC is the real Ethereum killer. Got a long ways to go to do that. Look at CurveDAO token, almost 50% up on the week. I don't know anything about that one. You guys are really quiet today. It's one of the quietest chats I've had. I'm kind of surprised. Dog with fat, only 3% is not. We're just going to hang on to that one. I was tempted to. I'm not going to put any more into it. I just bought this one on a whim, and I bought it exactly the wrong time. So maybe there's a lesson there. Ethereum name service doing okay. So is Little DAO at 26%. Interesting. IOTA did really well. I'm looking at the weeklies. Seen Gala. So Gala still can't get to 2 cents. I think this project is doomed. I'll be honest. I know some people really like Gala. Still, despite everything, despite all the horrible decisions they've made as a company, and just some of the scam-like behavior, selling thousands of dollars worth of NFTs costing thousands of dollars for games that haven't even released and then never actually released. It's pretty bad. Everyday Algonaut says, I like how Algo moved this week. Move the whole TVL of all ASAs. Yeah, that was nice. And we're going to get into the ASAs for sure. Yeah, I always wondered if I should have, if I was wrong to sell out of Tezos, and maybe not. It's doing okay, but not great. Although I don't remember what it was worth when I was buying it pretty actively. I just want to see who are the top gainers on the week right now, because it was Algorand, H bar, and I thought XRP would be higher up. So it's changed now because XRP fell back a bit, but Hedera and Algorand number 6 and number 7, right behind Stellar. We still got a few. Yeah, oh, Floki. I didn't really mention Floki, but they were up there too in the weekly gainers. Pretty interesting. It's kind of funny to see some memes really, really taking off and others like middling, when usually it's like if it's meme season, it's meme season. Interesting to see. Let's go to the Algorand charts. Oops, that's the wrong. I still have the Algorand page pulled up from Vestige, but that's been gone. This one, okay, so this one has been really frustrating for me because earning rewards in Tiny. And by the way, yeah, I am thinking about, I'm keeping an eye on it because there will come a point when Algorand, I think when Algorand hits about 45, 50 cents, it'll be more worth it for me to do ready pooling. Well, kind of. Yeah, no, it will be because I'll have more exposure to Algorand than it will to do liquid staking and DeFi. So there'll probably become a time when I switch that up. Sean Ryan saying, hey, everyone. What's up, Sean Ryan? Welcome to the show. Appreciate having you here. And I don't want to hit... I'm tempted to hit the 7-day and kind of rank them, but on Vestige, that counts every single coin. So some of these low caps that just showed up. Pointing Guy doing very well at the moment. That is, I think that's from the guy who was behind Borkborks, if I recall correctly. By the way, shout out to our Kick audience as well as YouTube, and to our X audience, which is always our biggest audience. Also one of our quietest. So if you guys are watching on X, feel free to leave comments. I can see them and I will comment on them. One of the big gainers over the week was Munko, and my Munko bag's looking pretty good right now. Now that's a bag, by the way, just to be 100% transparency. Someone sent me a bag of Munko. I don't know who it was, but I sold a little bit of it when it was up, and might be doing that again. It's actually, I have more than $100 worth right now of Munko. So nice to see that popping up. Sean said about some more algo, but damn, things are going balls to the wall. Yes, they are. Absolutely. But the tiny one, yeah, tiny one falling back, not doing as well as some of the other ones, and that's a little frustrating for me. Pokegold doing nicely. Almost everything is up on the week. Munko, one of the top ones. DeFi token doing pretty well also. DeFi net, Dialgo, Busk. I think I actually got rid of my Busk. I think I burned it. So you're welcome for Busk holders. I got a little bit of Mooj. I get a lot of this stuff sent to me, by the way. Alpha Arcade falling back a little bit. My Alpha Arcade was up almost to $115. And I'm doing that little Alpha Arcade experiment, and it's actually up a little bit. It was up over 115, and then it's back down now. It's this morning it was under 99. It was like 99 or 98 or something. But the idea was you can earn USDC from their fees from the prediction market if you hold it, which is kind of cool. And boy, I really hate this one. I'm just not a fan of Opulus. I just have a problem when you come to a chain like Algorand, you say, hey, help me start my business. They do so, and you go, okay, bye. And okay, I want to like move this one over a little bit because I want you guys to see friend of the channel, Marcus, up 45%. Well, 43.5, let's be honest. That's very nice to see. I got a little bag of Marcus. Had to buy the coin that I write about, or that's a sponsor of the channel. So that's nice to see. But the big winner here is Munko. Nice to see that. That is awesome. By the way, shout out to all of our audiences. If you are on YouTube, please hit that like button if you haven't already. That really helps this live stream spread out. We want to spread the word about Algorand, XRP, Hedera, all the utility coins, which are having a moment. It's really been a utility coin. It was, you know, the November-December pump was all about the utility coins, and now we're seeing that again as this bull run started. You know, I got to say too, by the way, you know, last week I called that this was the start of the bull run, and you're always a little nervous saying that, but it certainly felt, I don't know how to explain it, but when I was seeing from the charts, it just looked like this is what we saw a long time ago. I appreciate that. Everyday Algorand said I did smash the like button. Appreciate that. But remember, you don't have to smash it. You can just press it gently. It works just fine that way too, as we always say on Frugal BC. There's always part of me, it's like, is this a false flag? But it appears to be true. But something about it, I don't know how to explain it. This is my third cycle, and when the real bull run hits, you just feel it. You're just like, it feels like almost unstoppable. And that's where we're at. Sean says, can I get some advice from you about best platform on cold wallets? I set up BYDFI and looking at Trezor, but not sure. Yeah, I don't know much about those. I don't use cold wallets. You know, Ledger does. For sure, Everyday Algonaut would be your guy. Feel free to ask him in the chat. Not my area of expertise, so I don't want to weigh in. I do have links for Ledger. I don't think I put them in this description, but I have them in the other videos. They seem to be the best one, but I don't know. Probably Everyday Algonaut would be the guy to ask. He's a very technical minded guy. He'll be able to tell you. As yeah, I'm just not going to give advice about stuff I don't know. But if Trezor doesn't support Algorand, that's going to be tough. For sure. Yeah, like I said, I don't know how long a stream we're going to have, because I don't know how much, there's not a ton of news. Everything is all about the price action. Jason Vorsi says HBAR, Algo, and ICP. A good combo. That's a good combo to have. ICP didn't do quite as well as the other two, but definitely he definitely would have made gains on all three of those this week. Yet Zen Yen Ben says, watch your vid first time catching your stream. Wanted to say hi. Well, welcome Yen Zen Ben. I try to say that 3 times fast, huh? Zen Yen Ben. Welcome to the show. Appreciate it. You give me a little tongue twister this morning. I like it. I like it. Yeah, we definitely got some stuff to talk about, but I don't think I got 2 hours worth of stuff, because like everything, the only thing is like the crypto news, and I talked a lot about some stuff earlier this week on Algorand and HBAR. So we'll go through some of that. I probably should have pulled a video to watch. That would have been good. We might still do that. In fact, let me see if I can find something. I don't know if the thing I would want will be available. You know, you know what my feed has been filled with that astronomy CEO who was at the Coldplay concert with his head of people executive, and they were obviously being romantic. Man, what a thing to go viral. Sean Ryan says, oh, okay, and all ISOs are absolutely crucial for all of crypto. News at 2:30 from Trump. I believe he is signing strategic reserve today. That'll be interesting. The ISO thing, I really wish it would go away, because it's such a misnomer. There's no such thing as an ISO 20022 compliant crypto, as I've confirmed with several people who work in the blockchain, such as CTO, Algorand CTO John Allen Woods. And by the way, is he still CTO? Like, I know he announced he was leaving, but he didn't say when exactly. And so I don't know if he's still there or not. Yeah, I was hoping Asman had something that would have been fun to react to. Let me think. What was it called? Let's. We could watch a Meet Kevin video about it. Maybe we'll do that. Because, like, you know who I don't want to watch is like PBS News Hour or CNBC, because like they just generally don't understand how those work. Everyday Algonaut says he wanted to give support for the next CTO. I've not heard the name of our next CTO. Yeah, I mean, I kind of got the impression he was gonna stay until the CPO is gone, or the next I'm sorry, the next CTO came in, but I didn't know if that was. Well, like, yeah, what's he? And that's interesting, right? Because if he's doing that, that implies that he doesn't necessarily have another job lined up. So I don't know if he's just doing the taking some time for his family kind of thing, or yeah, I really don't know. Maybe he's financially independent. Yeah, I think I'll probably watch the Meet Kevin one. I'm not the hugest fan of him. Sean says that's going to be going to be an expensive Coldplay concert. I know it. You know, the thing that annoys me is like I'm usually on X looking for like crypto news to add to my show, and so when something like that happens, it's everywhere, and I'm like, okay, I get it, I saw it. Can I not see this anymore? I mean, like, I don't know. I never heard of the guy before, so I guess why should I care? Except I guess it's kind of funny. Sean says I want to get into ICP, but thinking I'm a little late. Oh, I saw my HBAR XRP and XOM are roaring. Yes, HBAR XRP Algorand absolutely roaring right now. Yeah, who knows? I mean, I generally, like, I'm not doing a ton of buying. I haven't been doing any buying since I think 2023. That's when I bought most of my bull market bag. And some of them have really gone the wrong direction. Oh yeah, I was gonna do that. Why don't I just get to I'll show you my portfolio. This is a little out of date because I updated this last night. But these are my hits. There's my dog with fat. So I'm gonna show you my losses. PYR I'm surprised about. Metis was almost completely flat. Mina is like, you know, middling, I guess. Matic was one of my big ones. PYR, I actually took profits on PYR. It was way up. I took some profits. Also, this was my total portfolio. Oh yeah, sorry, formulas. My total portfolio right up here in the upper right corner at 151% up. That's pretty good overall. And by the way, and I get asked every time, this does not include Algorand because pretty much all of my Algorand account is in DeFi. And I also do business on Algorand, which is one of the reasons why I like it. You know, like my channel sponsors pay me via Algorand wallets. And, you know, my partnership with the Algorand Foundation right now, where I'm making videos for them on their channel, like they also pay me through the Algorand wallet. Yeah, so let's go. We can go through some of these. I think this is interesting. Sean Ryan says, did you hear that they sold 90% of the Bitcoin they supposedly have? So instead of 177,000, they have around 20K. Trump is pissed. Who sold that? Are you saying like the government? Oh yeah, actually I did know about that. They were selling them off and not being strategic about it. You're saying like when the FBI would confiscate crypto and all that? Yeah, that's about it. Give me a second. My dog has to go to outside. Okay. Doggy's got to go. Doggy's got to go. Usually, yeah, usually she doesn't, but okay. Yeah, so interestingly enough, XRP became my best performer at 315%. And thanks to yesterday's sell-off, yep, so dumb, exactly. Thanks to yesterday's sell-off, it is solidly in moonbag territory. And for those that don't know what I mean by that, it just means that everything is, if it went to zero tomorrow, I still would have made $50. In other words, it's completely de-risked, as is my H bar. I'm actually, oh no, shoot, hold on. Didn't mean to do that. As is my H bar at 109 up. So H bar could go to zero tomorrow. I'm up 109. And my total portfolio, by the way, if all crypto went to zero tomorrow, I would be up $267. So I kind of can't lose, in other words. I'm going to turn that down. Now, obviously, crypto is not going to go to zero tomorrow, but I'm just saying, like, that's where my portfolio is. And that's always my goal, is to completely de-risk and then just enjoy the ride up. So right now, Solana, Bitcoin, Near, HBAR, XRP, that's it, are in moonbag territory. Yeah, even my sweet isn't. I've only taken profits once. Actually, that's kind of surprising. Looks like I was gonna wait for, yeah, so my average sweet buy is about $1.46, and I have a price target of $6. New price target for XRP is $5.50 for me. That would be a 10x. That might be ambitious. Maybe not though. This is probably pretty early yet, so I'm expecting. Well, anyway, I mean, so I've sold off. I've taken $3,600 worth of profits, and I only put in $3,300 total in my bull market bag. And this is a bag that I put together just for the bull run. So everything except some of the Bitcoin. So the Bitcoin's like maybe a bit of a misnomer, but otherwise everything was bought specifically for the bull run. But my top three right now, as you can see from here, is XRP, followed by Bitcoin, followed by HBAR. And HBAR was, Bitcoin was my top. But even with the increase, yeah, still just a little under 300%, which is a 4x, by the way. I know that confuses people, but 100x is 2x, or 100% is 2x. That's how you can kind of figure that in your head really quick. But yeah, I bought most of my XRP. Looks like my average entry was about 63 cents, so that is not bad. You know, actually, I've been wrong. I've been saying it's actually 5 cents. Okay. So that would be an 8x, not a 10x. I've been saying it wrong. I've been saying 4 cents. I do remember I bought a bunch at 4 cents, but I must have bought some higher. That's why I like to keep the spreadsheet, and learning how to do spreadsheets with some simple formulas. Pretty useful, actually. Pretty useful for sure. Yeah, Metis. I'm way down on Metis. PYR, I'm way down on. Near was up. I mean, Near was like $7 or $8 back in that previous little push up that we had. So anyway, I just wanted to go through some of that. And by the way, like I said, most of this was bought in 2023. So this is you know, this is not, I didn't buy this stuff last week. I bought it when everyone is like, crypto's done, bro. When the mainstream media is always, and they've been doing this since 2017 because they don't understand the cycles. They'd be like, oh, Bitcoin's dead. It's like, no, it's just that part of the cycle. That's your advantage. Because a lot of people are just going to listen to that and go, oh, Bitcoin's dead. I remember someone telling me, I said something about Bitcoin, and they're like, oh, you must be so poor. And I'm like, no, I'm just in the accumulation phase, because they don't know. They don't know how it works. And eventually more people are going to know. Institutions are starting to figure this out, and they're starting to get involved because they know overall you will be up, and you just have to learn to accept the volatility. which is why I was, I mean, it's up to them. It's up to them, but I see people, every trade to be considered income, so it really screws me short term. Yeah, that's the unfortunate part. When I take profit, I have to report it as income, but right now, because I quit my job, I'm at a lower tax bracket. And I also took, so this is why I like stocks. I know a lot of people don't like stocks, but most of my net worth is still in basically boring old index funds. And I do that through Wealthfront. And the benefit of that is that I make, like, when Trump had his little tariff thing happen and we had that big dip, it does automatic tax loss harvesting. So I'm going to be able to take about 3,400 in losses that will definitely offset any crypto, and it's going to offset like a big chunk of my income. Like 3,400 of my income will just be taken off the top, which is pretty cool. So that's that. I don't want to spend too much time on that. I think we should watch this video, because I want the full details on the Genius Act, the CBDC Act, and the Clarity Act. So I think we're going to go through that. Sean says, right, I'm trying to get father to invest his pension into IRA, but he's never invested, so never learned growing up. Yeah, there's a lot of people that never learned investing, and it's unfortunate. I had some friends out in the West Coast, and they were very liberal, very borderline socialist, but they also made like a ton of money. I mean, like, they made really good. My friend's husband made like really good money. He was working on like the big drill out there, so he was getting like, way more than I've ever made. Let's put it that way. And I saw her post about getting into investing, and there was like a drop like a week later, and she was just like, nope, this sucks, I'm out. And I'm like, yeah, that's the volatility. The way you can have an advantage is just being okay with that volatility and knowing that it's temporary. That's the big advantage. Yeah, let's watch this because I think this is interesting. And like I said, I don't know if I'm going to have a super long stream today. I'm going to put my headphones on. So, because I wanted to cover the Clarity Act, these three pieces of legislation, and I had a bunch of news flagged for it, but I think we'll just watch this instead. I think this will be a lot easier.
At least it accomplishes some other priorities, such as potentially defunding the... Well, it's official. By a vote of 215 to 211, the three crypto bills have passed the procedural hurdles to finally get signed into law. We're going to break down exactly what is in these three different legislative texts so you know what your congressmen and women are doing for you, other than, as I always say, enriching themselves.
True story. It's funny, I hear I hear people like Elizabeth Warren talking about the dangers of crypto, which are stuff that frankly people like you and I can get involved in, stuff that makes it easier to access financial instruments. And yes, it can be risky, and I totally agree with that. And I'm glad some of these I'm glad the crypto regulations are being clarified. But it's funny, I don't hear Warren talking about ending congressional trading. It's funny that I don't hear her talking about that. She seems totally okay. These people who are supposed to supposedly be of the people, that when it comes to something like that, they're all of a sudden really quiet. Which, by the way, I'm not necessarily saying that that I trust anybody on this. I don't trust anybody in Congress to be looking out for the people. Now, if they happen to do stuff that helps us, I think that's great. I think that's a totally legit thing. But basically, I saw something just today like, you know, the Obamas, they were for us. No, they're not. None of them are for you. Whether it's Trump or Elizabeth Warren or Obama or any of these guys, any of these politicians, they're there for themselves first and foremost, and they're looking out for their own interests first. And that means it's funny how they all their stuff seems to line up with the lobbyist, doesn't it? You know, it's funny how that always works. Dustin Williams asking why XRP is dropping. Oh, the market's dropping right now. You know, the pullbacks are normal. XRP isn't really pulling back. Maybe a little more than some of the other coins, but it also pumped higher than the other coins, hit an all-time high. So I wouldn't look too much into that. Sean says, I'm just still pumping my long-term bags, not looking for fast cash with crazy inflows, leveraging until I buy more. Yeah. And like I said, I'm just basically buying dips on Bitcoin and otherwise buying and holding. So not really taking profits in it anymore, just adding to it. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Let's actually talk about what these bills do and practically what they mean. This, keep in mind, is very different from the rescissions package. You might hear these fancy talks about $9 billion of rescissions packages. These are sitting with the Senate and House. The Senate just passed the $9 billion last night, with J.D. Vance being the tiebreaker vote, McConnell and Murkowski voting against the rescissions package. There were cuts in this rescissions package to basically save $9 billion of expenses, which is really a drop in the bucket compared to the trillions of dollars that we just are increasing our debt by via the big beautiful bill, about $3.2 trillion over the next 10 years. But hey, at least it accomplishes some other priorities, such as potentially defunding the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which would limit funding for NPR and PBS from the federal government, a big proponent of right-wingers and as well as the Trump administration.
You know, I generally don't want to get too political on this. The one thing I'll say about I think there's a world of difference between NPR and PBS. Like, I don't really see a lot of political bias in PBS. It just seems to do like stuff like Nova and, you know, so like This Old House and some of these old, like, you know, very neutral programs. Austin City Limits, you know, they got great concerts on there. I actually really enjoy watching. And then like the nature programs, those are really fun. NPR is like super left wing and like almost to the point where like a lot of liberals can't stand it anymore. And I think that's why they're being targeted. I really think they did bring it on themselves, but I do feel bad that PBS is getting targeted because I don't think they've been very political. And I didn't always think that. Like, NPR used to be really neutral, and now it seems to have gone like really, really left, almost comically left wing. So that's all I got to say about that.
That rescission package is separate from these three crypto bills. I just want to keep that clear. Even though there's talk about these at the same time, it feels like they're related. They're totally separate. Now, we have three individual legislative texts for Crypto Week. The first is the Genius Act, the second is the Clarity Act, and the third is the Anti-CBDC Surveillance Act. Let's go through them one by one. The Genius Act. The Genius Act basically tries to prevent a Terra Luna style collapse, which wiped out over $45 billion instantly. Well, instantly, it was like within a week, as their algorithmic stablecoin collapsed. That's because stablecoins really haven't been regulated. There hasn't been any regulation for, hey, who says that Tether actually has the treasury reserves they say they do? Because remember, a lot.
By the way, this is why I think the past administration's approach was insane. Like if you're concerned about crypto, why wouldn't you try to put some kind of regulations on it? And that's because they were just completely anti-crypto and they wanted to destroy it. So they were kind of making things up as they go. It's kind of insane, actually. And listen, I'm like, you know, I'm very distrustful of all administrations. I think there's plenty to criticize Trump on as well. So I'm not like taking a political side here. I'm just saying, like, calling balls and strikes. I mean, Trump so far has been far better for crypto. Although I did not love the Trump coin. I'll be honest. I thought that was a bad move when you're trying to signal that you're taking crypto seriously. The first thing you do is launch your own meme coin and make it look like a giant grift. I was not a fan of that, and I called it out on this channel. But overall, for all of us crypto holders, I think so far this administration has been much better than the past one, and it's better for those companies as well.
a lot of these stable coins, they say, hey, you should use USDC, you know, like a Circle stable coin, or you should use UST Tether, or you should use Terra Luna or whatever to collect a yield. And don't worry, this is all backed by underlying assets. Trust us, bro. The problem with this is there hasn't been a standard for transparency and audits. Even Binance's CZ has been quite dodgy in the past about auditing the actual proof of reserves for stablecoins or the underlying broker-dealer functions at Binance. Now, so far, we've seen FTX and Terra Luna collapse, and maybe because they collapsed, they took a lot of froth out of the market that ended up saving other companies that didn't collapse, though, you know, obviously we've seen Voyager or, you know, BlockFi, a lot of companies, you know, went down during the last oopsie-doopsies in crypto. But the point of this is to say that if somebody's going to say we have a stable coin, the law mandates full reserves, transparency around those full reserves, audits for those full reserves, and mandates both federal and state oversight. That's a big deal because you have not only potentially the SEC or federal regulators watching, but you also have state regulators, such as in California, the DFPI, who can then regulate stablecoin transactions in the state, but they're private stablecoins. So
Maybe I'm skipping ahead, but I think also he said that you had to also be a bank subsidiary, and that makes me a little bit nervous. I'm not 100% sure what that actually means. I want other companies besides. I don't think you should have to be a bank affiliated because let's be honest, the banking system is a dinosaur, and I don't really trust them to run these stable coins. On the other hand, I do like all these regulations to make sure that they're solid.
Stablecoins that could be put together between partnerships such as Walmart and Amazon, or JP Morgan's stablecoin project that they're working on with Coinbase, or the Visa and MasterCard stablecoin projects. Ultimately, there probably won't just be 2 to 3 major stablecoin providers in the future. We'll probably have hundreds of different stablecoin providers. And I personally think stablecoins in the longer term will be a very audited, fully reserved, transparent commodity. And the Genius Act does that. It helps provide rails for this. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't make money speculating on, for example, Circle in the meantime. Circle is really, really excited that this stablecoin legislation is passing. Now, keep in mind, when Circle IPO'd, we pitched on the channel and in our alpha reports that this is going to have major momentum, just like the CoreWeave IPO. And it did. It went from $64 to $300. Since then, the momentum has relaxed, and even though we're getting momentum now, in my opinion, the euphoric rally that we had up here is unlikely to repeat itself, and it's probable that we're going to see a lot of this sort of Circle valuation bleed out over time. Point one, because volumes are declining in the security. Point two, because the sex appeal of the momentum and these all-time highs from IPO are fading. Yes, we're seeing excitement today, which is great. I think it'll probably unlock some profit taking though. Now, keep in mind, I give pointers like this, and I give these projections. Obviously, it can't guarantee, but I do this every day in the course member live streams and in our alpha report, such as over the last few weeks, I've been promoting Opendoor, which has turned into a massive rocket ship. Now, both of these companies, I think, will fall in the longer term, mostly because I think stable coins will become a commodity and limit some of the profitability of a company like Circle. That'll take about 2 years. And Opendoor regularly does this thing where it goes from like $1 to $2 just on momentum because it's a $600 million company. It doesn't take a lot of volume to move it, so it tends to be an easy trade. And this morning before the market opened, I suggested today might be yet another one of those days. And sure enough, look, we're up 34% on the day. A substantial portion of that after we talked about it. So if you want to be part of that, make sure you go to meetkevin.com, join the alpha report. You pay once, you get lifetime access. So if in 5 years...
Yeah, I gotta see how this is doing. Which one? Opendoor? Actually not doing too bad today either. Wow. All right, fair enough.
Years, there's another Opendoor I gotta talk about, or we just talk about Opendoor again. You want to be a part of that, join it over at meetkevin.com. So that's the Genius Act. This, in my opinion, is a good thing because it broadens commercial access for not just banks, but also private issuers for stable coins. This is, by the way, in contrast with a CBDC. Now, it's unclear if people hate CBDCs because they hate the government and they hate the Federal Reserve, or if there are so many private interests that have kind of lobbied and manipulated us to go CBDC bad, because frankly, there's a lot of money to be made in private stablecoins.
Yeah, we don't want CBDCs because that means the government can shut you down when they don't don't like what you're doing. It gives them a sense of control over. And the whole idea of cryptocurrency is to be decentralized. We don't want the government to just be able to shut off your funds when they feel like it. That's why we don't like CBDCs. So how does he not understand that? He should know that for sure.
Either way, the vast majority of people hate the idea of a central-backed digital currency. Now, why? Because people think that the federal government, which frankly they probably would surveil all of our stablecoin transactions backed by some form of a stablecoin dollar.
Okay, so he does understand that. Why did he say what he said before? I'm really confused about that. First he says for some reason, then he says he knows why. Like, oh well, but at least he got it right in the end. That's good.
Only real upside you could think of when you think of a CBDC, or central bank digital currency. The only real upside you could see here is that the actual stablecoin could potentially be backed by the full faith and credit of the United States, for whatever that's worth. Whereas a private stablecoin says, hey, our representation of this token is backed in reserve somewhere by the dollar or a US Treasury note, which is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. So you're kind of like one party removed. And that's how Terra Luna collapsed, right? Because you have counterparty risk. Like, it's not just the risk of the government, it's the risk of the counterparty, the entity putting together that stablecoin, which is...
Well, agreed, but isn't that the point of the regulations? Like, the regulations remove some of that risk by putting in guarantees. Like, I don't know how that's hard to understand, but okay.
The case of Terra Luna collapse. But again, that's what the Genius legislation is trying to solve by saying, don't worry, we'll just audit all the reserves and give you a thumbs up. And then private companies can keep making a lot of money. Now, you have to understand this. The crypto lobby is huge. In fact, there's a PAC called the Fair Shake Political Action Committee. They are a crypto PAC. And they conveniently this week, I think it was yesterday, announced, hey, just saying, just going to put this out into the universe. We have $141 million war chest, and we will use that to promote politicians we like. That's basically a way of saying, listen, jackasses, you need to vote for our crypto legislation or we will defund the crap or run against you candidates who support us in the 2026 election, and we will primary your ass unless you do exactly what we want.
Good. That's all I got to say about that. Good. Because you know what? That's something that benefits all of us versus like private companies lobbying on their behalf and getting wins on that. Maybe some of us win because of that too, but not quite in the same way. It's usually at the expense of the American people. In this case, you know, getting positive crypto legislation helps all of us crypto holders, whether you're big or small. It's a big deal. So yeah, it's a really bad. He kind of got the mannerisms of Trump right, but like didn't get the tone at all. But that's okay.
It's just the translation. So this crypto pack is really powerful. And wow, what a surprise. Who funds the Fair Shake pack? Well, in the $52 million that Fair Shake raised in the last 6 months, Coinbase contributed almost half of it. But wait a minute. Why would Coinbase contribute so much money to the Fair Shake pack, which is promoting so much the stablecoin regulation? Oh, because remember what I said earlier. Coinbase is partnering with JP Morgan to launch their own private stablecoin so they could try to make some money like Circle's making money. See how it all connects? The dots just line up. It's perfect. Everybody makes money is the idea because it's always about money. Now, the Clarity Act is also very useful. This is a little bit more detailed, but it's really important to understand the difference between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and if you own rental property and haven't yet started using Turbo Trading 10 with us with an background reminder, it's just not buried. Most platforms only run is an token. Is responsible for the regulation of Bitcoin, Ethereum, tokens, real-world assets, everything related to cryptocurrency. Here's how it works. The Clarity Act says Bitcoin and Ethereum are products that are intrinsically linked to blockchain systems whose value is derived from those systems, such as through governance, transaction fees, or access to services. And therefore, Bitcoin and Ethereum are digital commodities and shall be regulated by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. They have way fewer regulations than the SEC. You would much rather have the CFTC up your butt than the SEC up your butt, okay? SEC, very powerful. CFTC, a little more chill. At least that's the way people describe them in a simple manner. So that means Bitcoin, Ethereum, CFTC. Cool. What does the SEC get? The SEC basically gets everything else. So any kind of investment contracts, tokenizations, stable coins, securities, deposits, option contracts, pooled investment vehicles, NFTs, tokenized real world assets, all of this, SEC.
That's really interesting, and I want to show you guys something. Let's see. I saved this one. Now this is, I want to be clear, this did not come from the legislation, but it's someone. This is maturity, label, and short description. This did not come from the Clarity Act itself. It's more of a, I even say this on the side here. This is from some kind of external analysis. But it kind of matches with what Meet Kevin was saying. Bitcoin and Ethereum likely mature. Decentralized proof of stake. Fully centralized proof of work. No central control. Then they say BNB not mature. XRP not mature, which I don't know by what their criteria. Also likely mature Cardano. And Dogecoin, borderline. Decentralized control, but high token centralization in a few wallets. Tron is on here. So like HBAR and Algorand not even on here. I don't know what that matters, but just to kind of add this in here, it mostly seems, like I said, it mostly seems to be focused on Bitcoin and Ethereum count for as commodities. The other ones don't. But I think it's really strange if Ethereum if Ethereum counts on this, then a lot of other chains like Hedera and Algorand also must count. I don't see the fundamental difference in terms of structure where that would be the case. So very confusing to me.
Now, the cool thing about the Clarity Act as well, though, is they're borrowing from what we could do in the stock market today, but nobody does. Technically, let's say you own a share of Tesla. Okay, so we'll take out a little notepad here, and we're going to write that this notepad represents, shares of Tesla stock, okay? So here, we have shares of Tesla stock. Technically, if I hold these shares of Tesla stock myself, which nobody ever really does because you hold them, on an electronic record, basically at your broker-dealer, in book entry form, right? Like you don't actually hold the shares anymore like we used to back in the day, like 50 years ago or whatever, where you actually hold the share certificates. If you held the share certificates for Tesla, technically, like you go, hey, yo, neighbor, you want to buy some of these? Yeah, sure, I'll buy some of your Tesla shares. Cool, man. Here's some money. Here are the shares. Technically, that would be considered an exempt transaction. So the security itself is covered by the SEC, but that transaction isn't. Like you could trade that as much as you want in person. But as soon as you go on the internet and you try to trade Tesla on like Robinhood, well, that's regulated by the SEC. They surveil what you do. They surveil the trades. They want to make sure the money clears. They want to make sure the transaction clears. They want to make sure everything's balanced. They want to make sure there's no fraud. They want to make sure there's no insider trading. All of that is called surveillance, making sure you have functioning and honest markets, right? No fraud in markets. We don't know what's happening when people are just moving share certificates around. That's why most of it is electronic now, and it can be surveilled by the SEC. Okay, the reason I bring all that up is because now a token, once issued as a security, just like Tesla shares are a security, a token issued under an investment contract initially goes through registration with the SEC. So an ICO, like an initial coin offering or some kind of initial tokenization, like let's say HouseHack is like, hey, we're gonna tokenize these 20 properties and we're gonna sell these tokens. That initial sale is a securities transaction. However, once...
Quick little point, but it's interesting that no one's talking about bringing back ICOs. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I was pretty young in crypto when ICOs were still a thing, but that actually seems better than a lot of the way it's handled now, because now it launches and it's kind of like an inside game, and these snipers are they're like Johnny on the spot with it. They got it, they buy it, they sell it before you even have time to blink. Wouldn't it be better if you had a period where people could buy these and then it launches? I mean, I just wonder if the ICO would actually be a better model than the current model that came after it. I know ICOs were kind of outlawed, as I understand. I'm surprised no one talked about like potentially bringing that back, because it might be a better way to, if it could be regulated in some ways, it almost would be a better way to launch cryptocurrencies. I mean, it's certainly better than like Pump.Fun or any of these, you know, the stuff that's been happening with like the Trump coin and the Melania, where insiders just get a bunch of coins and then everyone else is like a dumping ground. I mean, wouldn't that be better if everyone could be in on it? And that's just something I've been thinking. It's something that just occurred to me as I was watching this.
You have the token, even though it's electronic and being done online, you are allowed to trade that token with another party without being subject to a securities transaction regulation. That's pretty big. This is pretty good. This is great because it gives people a lot of flexibility, and it's very crypto positive, which again explains why we're seeing such an explosion right now in, well, not only Ethereum. I mean, you could see Ethereum just over the last, few hours here has just been exploding. We're almost at 3,300. Bitcoin's almost running back to 120, which is great. We know Circle is doing fantastic, and people are taking money out of the SPAC that Eric or Don Jr. probably got paid some nice dollar hollers for to be on the board of. But anyway, Don Jr. IPO'd this morning with, the SPAC company that was involved in this, since we see some liquidity issues here, negative 19%. But the point is, crypto is doing fantastically as a result of these bills passing, or at least advancing their procedural hurdles. So this gives you a little bit of color on these three different things. Now, some other notes to think about. We've got a lot of talk about this anti-CBDC Surveillance Act actually just straight up banning the Federal Reserve from ever being able to get into a central bank digital currency. So that basically kills that. You also get the right to self-custody your assets if you want, which is also fantastic. And you finally get some clearer regulation so that you can actually have legitimate offerings in crypto. Not saying that there aren't other legitimate offerings, but the problem that you've had in the past is you kind of don't know who's doing the offering. So when people rug pull a crypto, they just disappear. But now the SEC would actually require in these registrations, presumably, transparency into who the actual underlying owners are and the vested interests are, what their conflicts of interests are, and transparently show who these people are. So if they rug pull you, you know who to sue. So all of this also gives us some rug pull protection for.
It's funny when you regulate something, you can actually make it safer versus versus just not having regulations and leaving it to be the Wild West and having it all go overseas. Funny how that works.
New initiatives, which is also good. Really, regulation is usually designed not to tell you that something is a good investment. It's just to tell you that it's not a fraudulent investment. That's the point of regulation. Like, I always like to use House Hack as an example. Like, I personally think House Hack's going to do really, really well, and the stock value is going to skyrocket, whether it's through our, portfolio expansion, our refinances of our deals, the wedge deals we do, or through the AI project that we have that we're going to be licensing soon, which is really exciting. We'll talk more about that later. I think that, but we don't know that. So an investment can go up or down in value. The SEC's job is not to say, oh yeah, we think Heaven's AI is going to go to the moon. It's to look and say, okay, like, are you guys actually getting PCAOB audited? Cool. Okay, yeah, you got your PCAOB audit. Looks good. Great. That's their job, right? It's like, what do PCAOB auditors do? Well, make sure you're not a fraud. Make sure your conflicts of interest are disclosed. That's the point.
By the way, speaking of housing and Meet Kevin, remember that was about, I think it might have been 2 years ago that he did this video about how Lofty AI was going to be shut down because it was violating the laws. I did a reaction video to it. Yeah, how'd that turn out? Now I have my issues with Lofty AI, by the way, just to be clear. The fact that they went to an automated market maker meant the valuations were completely screwed. So instead of benefiting from the increase in property price, because everything was pretty much going up in the last, however many years, you are subject to the token price, which turned out to be very, very different. A lot of my tokens, when I went to sell them, I got like probably half. I took a bath, like maybe 50% down on selling them. So yeah, I don't really like the way they've managed it. I think the automatic market maker was a huge mistake, personally. I mean, I understand like from a liquidity perspective why that makes sense, but the problem is it totally changed the valuations of the properties. So everything you saw, like, oh, my token was $50, now it's $63. Not really, because automatic market maker isn't going to give you anything near that. In fact, it's most of the time it's far less. But I do think he was wrong about the regulation part of it. So interesting that under the Genius Act, it sounds like, or actually I should say under the Clarity Act, it sounds like Lofty AI would fall under the SEC. But I mean, they had a team of lawyers. They really, I think they did everything they could to stay on the legal side of the law, so to speak. Let's see. Everyday Algorand says there's some white paper requirements in this legislation pack, which is being approved now. Yeah, I'm not sure. It sounds like I think it's less about the white paper. It's like about, you have to meet certain benchmarks, certain criteria that you have to prove that, you're basically not fraudulent, is my sense of it.
So it's not to make something, the regulation isn't to make something a good investment, it's to make it a fair and transparent investment. And that's what's happening with these bills, which is great. Crypto's really needed it for a very long time. And so I'm really happy and excited to hear this finally come together. So mind you also that folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene, they were like super anti this for a while. Chip Roy, Keith Shelf, all of them were like, oh yeah, no, we're not going to vote for this. They flip-flopped probably in part because Trump called them yesterday and kind of demanded that they, flip-flop. And so sure enough, they did. And AirPod stopped working, but that's okay. And sure enough, they did. But this happens every time in Congress. You always have few holdouts that are like, oh no, this isn't going to pass because there are a few holdouts, and then it's kind of like the president's job. Hey, what's it going to take? You want to come to dinner with me? You want to come see some of these photos that I have from certain files that aren't to be released? Why don't you come over and I'll show you some photos? And then all of a sudden the votes flip, I mean, I don't know what was offered, but that's how it works. That's called politics. That's the game. Anyway, there you have it. Why not every...
Yeah, he's not wrong about that. That's for sure. Everyday Algorand says that they went with the traditional AMM algorithm. It sucks because the slippage is too high there. I think I don't know if, yeah, I want to be clear. It's possible there just isn't a good way to do it, but I kind of care about the end result. So the end result is like, why would it just doesn't make sense for me to invest in Lofty when I can do stuff that makes a higher return with better liquidity. Why would I lock my liquidity into something where it's difficult to sell? If you sell it on the open market, you're just going to wait forever. I sold a couple of them. I even put them at like much lower than $50 and still they didn't sell. So it might not be their fault. It might just be the nature of the beast that it's just really difficult to do a real estate platform on crypto without having it work this way. Or maybe there's a mechanism they haven't discovered yet. I'm not sure. Mr. Nobody Advanced Engineering says, yeah, what? Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Yeah, let me know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think this was a good video. I'm going to give it a like for sure. And I'll share it. If you guys want to watch it, you should definitely check it out. I'll put that in the chat. Hold on, I'm going to put that just so it goes everywhere on Kick and YouTube. Yeah, make sure you go give it a like. I think Kevin did a pretty good job breaking it down. Like I said, I didn't love, like, for example, when I thought his video on Lofty AI was way off the mark. And yeah, Algorand is up. Oh, it definitely is. Everything's up. Yeah, in fact, well, not at the moment. Actually, down below 30 cents now. So pulling back a little bit. Yeah, someone had asked me about XRP going down, and really we're seeing a market pullback in the last hour. So it happens. The thing is, people always see these pullbacks and they think, oh, what's happening? Well, and it is one of the bigger ones, as was Doge. Doge was one of the better pumpers too. But everything is pretty much fallen back. In fact, if we just, in the last hour, Arbitrum falling back, Curve Dow was one of the bigger ones that pumped up. Scotty Rolls in the chat saying Algorand Foundation tweeted about releasing merch. Really? By the way, we did not get the roadmap this week, and I think we can expect that by the end of the month. Digital assets. Well, here, yeah. They said next week. It's not next week. Oh, there's my buddy Sewell. Oh, that's interesting. Look at that. Algorand, Nigeria. Where's that algo merch? Am I missing it? Mr. Nobody says he bought algo at 8 cents. That is a good time to buy. Very smart. By the way, I have no idea. Oh, I'm not even on the Algorand. Hold on. I should go to their actual page, shouldn't I? Got thousands of algo at 8 cents. Awesome. Jason Lowe says, frugal question, XRP with 40 billion more coins to be released into the market. Wouldn't that be a factor with price appreciation? Has it been? Look at the price. So I hear this a lot. Logically, it makes sense. And yet, if you look at actual price action, it just doesn't matter. For example, SWE pumped like crazy, and it's the same number of total supply, 10 billion. It's really very early in its token and its bond curve, and it's pumped like crazy, where Algorand wasn't pumping crazy, and Algorand was toward the end. First tweet on their page was, oh, time to bring out the Algorand merch. So I don't know if this is saying, as in everybody who has merch, get it out and wear it, or if they're saying they're actually coming out with merch. But if they are saying that, that would be very cool. I can see two different ways to interpret that. I hope it doesn't look like that, by the way. I don't want to wear Spider. I love Spider-Man. I don't necessarily want to wear a Spider-Man colored shirt around. Sarah Jane, she's a great follow, by the way. I really like her. Just doing good things. She did the Algorand series. It was really good. Everyday Algonaut says, I'm waiting for the scarcity to take place for Algo. It's quite heavily distributed. Soon it will be distributed more than Bitcoin. And, you know, I still have yet to see that really matter in terms of price. Like I said, stuff that like has a long way to distribute yet also has like, it'll pump more than coins that are like almost fully distributed. So we like to think the scarcity matters because scarcity is only one part of the equation. The demand curve is the other. So demand it's supply and demand. Just because supply is limited, you also have to have the demand for it. And you could argue with less coin out, there's just less in the market. And so the same demand with a coin with less out would have a higher demand to supply ratio. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't make investing decisions based on that. A lot of people do. Yeah, thanks, Scotty. How's jiu-jitsu going, by the way? I've been back for a couple three classes now, so after my injury, so feeling pretty decent. I got into that same position where I was going to get stacked, and I got really freaked out. I didn't do what I normally would do. I like immediately tried to switch to like a butterfly guard, which didn't work out that well, but you know, it was safer at least. Let's see what we got. 11, yeah. I have a few like little news items we can go through and feel free to chat. You know, I'm just gonna like kind of poke around in this. Oh, we got this Dave Portnoy thing. So apparently Dave Portnoy sold Scotty says jiu-jitsu is great, bro. Just took over the wrestling classes. Nice, nice. Yeah, I'm actually trying to like pick up a few wrestling skills. Really feel bad for Ben Askren. You know, he's in the same state, at least. He's a different area than me, but he doesn't live that far away from me. Like I've always thought of like it'd be fun once he's healthy. I know he had a huge problem with cancer, or no, not cancer. What did he have? It's something from the mat, I think. And I always thought it'd be cool one day to like travel down and like take one of his wrestling classes if that's possible. I haven't even looked into if that's like a thing you can do, but it'd be fun to like pick up some wrestling tips from him. But I hope he recovers. You know, I didn't know till recently that he was from somewhat close to where I live. Yeah, Scotty says great about you getting back in there and adapting to stay healthy. Yeah, I've gone through I've gone through a few different injuries. Last one was I almost quit when I got a tailbone injury that lasted, you know, it took me like months to recover from. I didn't do jiu-jitsu. I just assumed I was done. And then I found out there was a local class in town, and the teacher's like in his 50s, I believe. And a lot of the other students are older, so we roll a little more carefully. But still, sometimes, you know, I think it is combat sport. You're going to get in trouble. Dustin says, why the big drop today? I feel like I should sell. I mean, I would sell a little bit to take profits if you haven't already, but I think this is the beginning of the bigger bull run. So I'd be cautious of that. But you know, it's up to you and your risk tolerance. If you're okay with missing out if it goes to higher highs, like I was sharing earlier when I was sharing my crypto portfolio, like I take profits on the way up, and that way my goal is to like sell everything that I put into it to completely de-risk, and then everything in there, that's all risk-free, you know? Like right now I'm about $300 into the profit. In other words, if it all went to zero, I would have no problems. I'd still be fine. We're going to watch this, by the way. I would still be fine. So like that gives me a lot more confidence. Like then I'm not worried about it, because it could theoretically all go to zero and I still would have made money. Not very much, but it's also not going to go to zero. Like it's just not going to happen. So yeah, let's watch this. Let's watch this here.
I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I can't lie to my people. I have a confession. I sold XRP when it went up to 240 because the guy who told me to buy it told me that I should sell it because he thought Circle would compete with him. He was unhappy with it. It's up 60% since I sold it, and I would have made millions, and I want to cry, and I don't own it anymore. Even though I was like the leader of the XRP army, I sold it.
Yeah, sorry, Dave. I don't think you were the leader of the XRP army. Yeah, Dom, who is a friend of the channel, does follow me, by the way. So a guy who told me to buy XRP said I should sell it because he thought Circle would compete with it. Couldn't be further from the truth. And a great example of why understanding the tech is so important. Too many people buy tokens because their friend told them to, or because they read about them on X. But borrowed conviction can only last so long. Only by understanding the tech will you have the conviction to hold long term. And not just that, but understanding the cycles. I think that's actually more important. I think it's a combination of the two, but you just never know what's going to pump. You know, this is my third cycle, and like the craziest stuff will take off. The things that you think are like amazing for all the technical reasons won't, or vice versa. You just don't know. Weird stuff happens, and that's why I was just shaking my head when I saw people selling completely out of Algorand like 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, this is the bull run season. You just hang on. Just make your bets. You make your bets in the bear winter, and then you hold on. You know, you build up your funds, and then you hold on to them, because you just don't know what's going to take off when. You know, we saw Near Protocol took off in 2022. I think people forget that. You know, and there was stuff that took off in early 2021. There was stuff that took off later in 2021. It's really best just to, not financial advice, blah, 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 but really best just to kind of, make your bets and stick with them. Otherwise, you just end up lane changing and you miss the pump because you changed lanes too fast. And I'm a big believer, as you saw from my bull market bag, of making a lot of different bets. Scotty says it's very sad about Ben Askren. That would be sick if you could learn from him in person. He has tons of stuff on YouTube. Yeah, I should actually watch some of his YouTube. I think we all saw him get smoked by Masvidal, and because he kind of knew what Ben was going to do, and Ben went in as a wrestler. So I think he did a good job of exploiting that. But overall, I think Askren's a good, he's got really great wrestling skills, and definitely someone I would love to learn from. Not going to lie, I'd be a little afraid. I'd be a little afraid going in for sure. It's fun. It's fun when you're watching like UFC or Karate Combat, because when you see stuff, you see certain positions and you're like, oh, I know why that sucks. Like, I've been there. I've been in that position. So I know why they can't just just do this and get out of it. No, it's not that easy. It's pretty fun. Yeah, I got my third stripe on my blue belt a few weeks ago at our seminar, martial arts seminar school held, which had a guy that was like a 3rd or 4th degree black belt or something. And also does Kali and Jeet Kune Do and some of those other arts as well. So I did some of that. Pretty fun. But yeah, Dave represents a very common problem, which is why I say if you're gonna hold on to this is not the time to get completely out of a position unless it's obviously gonna go down. Scotty says yes, LeMayo. Yeah, I'm sure he'd be cool, but I have to look into it because I think there's a school he's teaching at, but I don't know if he's just teaching high schoolers or I don't know if it's the kind of thing you can just, go pay a mat fee and go learn or something, but it'd be cool if there was. Grappling does go way back. This is interesting too. King Solomon, also a friend of the channel. I like this guy a lot. We were talking about doing some stuff together, and that never came through, but I should actually have him come on the channel at some point. Kingston, the problem is they started gambling on shitcoins instead of building a foundation and utility. We've all been there to some extent, including myself, but having a grounding in real utility is crucial. So it helps you recognize your mistakes, learn from them, and eventually come back to substance over hype. Dom says, very true. I do believe people can have fun with meme coins, but they should understand the difference between a gamble and an investment. 100%. Yeah, very wise words from two people. I think these are very good follows, by the way. I like both of them. Big fans of them. Red Eye says, Dom, I know you have a platform to stand by, so let me say this for you. Portnoy's financial advisor is a full-blown retard. Everyone knows you don't go full retard. Well, clearly. Yeah, it wasn't an investment advisor. It was just a friend. There's a lot of competition. I did this reaction to a XRP is going to go to $10,000 video that was made 4 years ago. Obviously, that didn't happen, and it wasn't to dump on the prediction itself. It was the logic. The logic was oh, it's doing this, so no one else can do that. It's dude, everyone can do that. There's so much competition in this space, and I think XRP will do fine. XRP will do great in the banking space. I think it's setting itself up to do that. I think it'll be fine. I don't think it's a bad investment at all. But yeah, you got to be very careful. Let's see. Everyday Algorand says, I asked Grok, calculate the date when the percentage of Algorand token distribution in public will be higher than the percentage of Bitcoin token distribution, and is October 2029. So it'll probably be a topic for the next bull run. Oh, that's true. Narratively speaking, it'll probably come up. Sure. Scotty says, I was responding to Dustin saying this is a long hold, but if you're on your buy, then don't have long sell. What happened with Mark at Google headquarters? Next, they're reporting some big news coming out for Algorand. Seeing numerous projects saying they're going to make a big announcement soon. Yeah, we haven't seen anything from. We can go look, but I didn't see. By the way, still not following me. I think that's crazy. How is he not following me? Talking about AI agents. Talking about bank think. Interesting. I talked about this. AI agents are going to be where crypto really shines. Let's see. Clarity Act passed. Jenny Levin, by the way, this is the new CLO, Chief Legal Officer, and COO. So it's the operating officer and the legal officer. Also not following me. Come on, Jenny. I think it's crazy that people in the foundation wouldn't be following me. Because yeah, I saw that tweet too, and I was like, and then nothing really came of it. By the way, I think you guys saw that the ex-council was elected this week. And a man, John Mazzoni, just barely squeaked by. He got the 11th place. I don't see. Yeah, there's the tweet, and I haven't seen anything. But they had their head of payments there, which is very interesting. My guess, this stuff takes this is probably like an initial conversation, and this stuff will take a really long time to go. Let's see. Scotty Roll says, anybody here staking with Gora? I actually have a little bit of Gora staking as an experiment, and I haven't checked on it in forever. I should probably check on that soon. In fact, I probably have to go on my laptop because I don't think I even had this PC when I started that. Everyday Algonaut says, Frugal, did you try my Algorand MCP to transfer some algos around? I have not. Can't wait to share a new roadmap coming before the end of the month. See, that's what I'm talking about. Some people were saying next week. I don't think well, that would have been this week. Oh, then there was some stuff between this week and next week. So like next week means like, or like that board meeting was supposed to, people were thinking it was this week, but the board meeting, she was saying next Wednesday. So that didn't mean like 2 days from now or 3 days, whenever she tweeted it. That meant like the following week. That's one of those like, no one is quite sure what next Wednesday means. Does that mean like the coming one or the one after that? Well, I think a lot of people think it means the one coming after that. So, well, you know, like I said, I thought it was going to be a shorter stream today. I didn't have a ton of stuff to talk about, but I think it was pretty good. Just happy to see, you know, crypto prices pumping. Obviously, a little bit of a pullback right now, and looks like we're still in that pullback. Bonk taking off for some reason. Wait, I'm going 1 hour. Why is it not? I don't know. It just wants to go back to normal, I guess. Okay. Actually, yeah, Bitcoin's starting to, and Ethereum's starting to wake up again. So, you know, just as we say that, starting to go back the other direction. So that's what I'm saying. Like, just don't make any rash moves at this point. Have your convictions and hold on to it. So, Scotty says, other than token price crashing, staking Gora has been pretty great for me, especially since they started auto compounding. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I should definitely check on that for sure. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate everyone being here. I hope you all enjoyed yourself. Like I said, these are the good times. This is what we've been in it for. You know, this is what we dealt with, that long bear market, really long bear market, to get to this moment. So enjoy it. Everyone have a good weekend. And with the knowledge that your bags are much higher than they were a week ago. And I will see you